So interviews are one of the biggest barriers to getting into a job. And a big part of those interviews that a lot of people worry about are situational questions. Most people don't lose job offers because they lack experience. They lose them because they answer situational interview questions poorly. And I don't mean awkwardly or nervously. I mean in ways that quietly lower their score. I know this because I've sat on interview panels for multiple different positions, and I've watched strong candidates talk themselves out of offers with answers that probably felt fine, but weren't. In an interview, obviously you're being scored. It's an interview. What most candidates don't realize is what they're actually being scored on. Situational questions aren't really about telling a good story. They're about how you think, how you make decisions, and whether you're actually safe to hire. Once you understand that, these questions become much easier to answer well. Now, if you want interview advice that's based on real hiring experience, not theory, go ahead and give me a subscribe and let's get into this one. So when I've been on interview panels, usually the resume has already been approved. You've made it past the first step. Our situational questions weren't about whether someone could do the job. That's already been proven in the resume. They were about whether we wanted to work with them and bring them into our organization. Almost every situational answer gets evaluated on just a few things: how you approach problems, how you work with other people, and how you handle pressure or mistakes, whether you take responsibility or deflect it. The strongest answers didn't try to sound impressive. They made us as the interviewers feel confident in bringing them to our team. So if you're watching this video, you have probably already heard of what they call the STAR method. Situation, task, action, result. The STAR method works, but this is where most people lose points. They over-explain the situation and under-explain their actions. From the interviewer side, that usually sounds like, okay, but what did you actually do? A simple rule of thumb that consistently scores better: make the situation and task about 20% and the action about 60%, and then the result or reflection about another 20%. Interviewers don't need a lot of context. What they need is judgment. So one of the real examples you'll see a lot in interviews that's really difficult for a lot of people is this question. Tell me about a time when you've worked with a difficult teammate. Weak answers that usually fail are going to be things that blame other people, or they stay vague, they avoid describing conflict, and never explain their decision making. Even if the story is true, it raises concerns about accountability and awareness. So just briefly explain the problem. Clearly state what you owned, walk through your reasoning, and end with an outcome or lesson. When candidates answer this way, the reaction is almost always, I can work with this person. So the 3 rules that interviewers actually reward are these. Rule 1, be specific. Vague answers feel safe, but they score low. Specific details signal honesty and competence. Rule 2, show judgment. Interviewers aren't listening for the perfect decision. They're listening for how you made it. Explain your thinking. Rule 3, take responsibility even if the situation wasn't your fault. Strong candidates explained what they controlled. Deflecting responsibilities is one of the fastest ways to lose an offer. So the next piece is practice without sounding rehearsed. The candidates who consistently performed best didn't memorize scripts, they prepared. They might have 5 to 6 flexible stories, each loosely mapped to STAR, each adaptable to multiple questions. As an interviewer, these answers feel confident. They feel natural and credible. They don't feel like robotic or rehearsed. So after sitting on multiple interview panels, here's the takeaway. Situational interview questions aren't tricks. They're patterns. Once you understand what the interviewers are actually scoring, you stop trying to sound good and start communicating clearly. It becomes more of a conversation. You're telling a story with intent. These are going to be the type of answers that feel casual but professional, and they make the interviewer feel confident and safe in bringing you into their team. Now, if you want more interview breakdowns from an interviewer's perspective, or you want more information on public service careers, go ahead and give me a subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.